Because we hate car payments, our family recently purchased a 20-year-old SUV, which has all the bells and whistles except for this thing, a backup camera system. So I found out just how easy it is to install one of these things. Really, the only problem is you might get a little dirty if you're crawling around on the ground, but that's about it. And you can buy one of these for about 30 bucks, so stay tuned. The first thing you want to do is remove your taillight assembly. There's two screws holding this GMC truck assembly in place. I'll remove those and then get access to the taillight assembly. And I'm going to use the middle connection. That's the connection for the reverse lamps. Next, I'm going to connect up the wires to provide power to the backup camera itself, as well as the backup camera monitor that sits in the dashboard. The green wire you see there is the power, and we're just verifying that we're using the reverse lamps. And the black wire is the ground. We're going to connect each one of these cables, the green and the black, to cables to power up the camera and the monitor. And we're going to use these red clips here. And what these do is they pretty much splice the wires together. You'll see that metal tab at the top. That lowers into place to splice, in this case, the black wire to the black ground wire and the green power wire to the red wire. And once we get those clips positioned, we use pliers to push that metal tab into place, and that splices these wires together. And if you can see, I'm going to try to angle a side view. You can see how the metal tab has lowered into place, and then I'll just clip this plastic red clip over the whole assembly and we're done. Now, before we put the taillight assembly back in place, we want to test everything. Here's the connection going to the monitor that sits on the dashboard. You can see the connection right there. And then the other connector will go to the backup camera that sits over the license plate. I had to pixelate my license plate because I don't know what kind of weird characters are watching this video. That black blob is the backup camera. Speaking of the backup camera, the package I purchased allows the camera brace, I guess you would call it, to be mounted in front of the license plate or behind the license plate. This still shot shows the brace mounted behind the license plate. That's personal preference, really, and you can see the cable leading out from the camera dropping behind the license plate as well. Okay, so before you run your lines from the back of the truck to the front of the truck, let's test everything. And I've got everything connected up, and I'm just going to temporarily run the line up to the monitor in the cab. You can see there's the monitor, and now we're going to fire up the truck and put it in reverse and make sure the monitor works. We just want it to pop on when we've got the truck in reverse, so let's put her in gear, and voila, we got a working backup camera and camera monitor. Okay, so we verified that the whole system works, so now we can fish our lines through the taillight assembly cavity right there, and then put our taillight assembly back in place. And then we can run the lines. In my case, I'm going to go underneath the truck, and honestly, that was the biggest pain in the butt of this whole process, was running the line underneath the truck. But it wasn't that difficult. It was just a dirty operation. All right, so welcome to the spider web filled underside of my truck. Now that we've tested everything, we're going to reconnect the backup camera behind the license plate to the permanently located lines underneath the truck. And while we're running these lines, make sure you avoid any moving parts underneath the vehicle or any parts that get hot. I'm not a mechanic, so take this with a grain of salt. I couldn't find an easy way to get the cable into the cockpit from underneath the vehicle, so I drilled a hole right here in the step area. That step is plastic. It was real easy to drill that hole, and then I ran the cable up in between the door. I know that's hokey. I know it kind of sucks, but it works for me. And then I just ran the cable underneath the floor carpets right there and up into the dash area. And again, not ideal, but I couldn't find real easy access into the dashboard area on our particular GMC truck. To mount the monitor, which is only about 3 or 4 inches wide, you want to use these heavy duty Velcro pads. They work pretty well. I just placed a couple on the bottom here and then 1 or 2 on the back of the monitor and just just pushed it in place, and we're off to the races. And I used some electrical tape on the bottom pads just to cover them up. Hope this video helps you. If it did, please subscribe. Cheers.